side. Boston going to work. Scores off the backboard. 4 seconds to go. Boston to Hull. Left wing. Fires a three. Good! Hull heads with .3 to go in the third.
All right, Danielle, as promised, we are back for a special edition of W Hoops. And want to talk about the brackets for the Women's National Championship tournament released last night. We watched those together, and I guess to be fair to the committee, we complained a lot. They always get a lot of complaints. A couple things. They got UConn right as the number one seed. The media tried to stir up some controversy, but they got it right. And most importantly for us, UConn's playing in Fort Worth, so we get to see them in person.
Yeah, we've had tickets since they came on sale, so looking forward to that. And it was interesting. I think the committee person said it came down to the observable factor or
Component,
something, components, yes,
observable component.
which basically means that UConn is obviously better than everyone when you watch them. And also their record is better. They haven't lost a game, so they clearly deserve the one seed. Um, and it's kind of silly because UCLA basically beat a bunch of Big Ten teams that UConn also beat. So it's not like UCLA was out there beating South Carolina and Texas. They lost to, their one loss was to Texas. So it's not like, oh, look at how well UCLA did. They had a tough schedule, but UConn beat the teams, UConn beat Iowa, UConn beat Michigan. So yeah, it's just drama for clicks and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to me, UConn's clearly the one seed. UCLA was clearly the two seed overall, and deserving of a one seed and deserving to stay out west by home. And then South Carolina and Texas were clearly the third and fourth best teams in whatever order. I wouldn't have cared, but
Then
Texas won the
Texas,
championship, so they probably
yeah,
deserve being the three overall three.
yeah, yeah, there's nothing really to complain about there. And then
Mm.
Texas gets to stay in Texas, and that's good
Yeah.
in theory for them.
Yeah, so this committee did fine with the top one seeds. One thing I just want to add about, I mean, obviously we're biased about UConn. We love UConn, love the way they play basketball. Been big fans for a long time now. I really liked what Rebecca Lobo said last night. This is not an exact quote, but essentially she said that UConn won the championship. She's watched, if you watch their games this year, um, they look as good as the team last year. And, they are, that team won their tournament games by like an average of 30 points a game or something. So
Mhm.
you can't argue with UConn being the number one overall seed if you've watched any games at all. I mean, they look like the best team. We've seen a lot of these other tournament teams play. And of course, we've watched UConn more than anybody else, but UConn's got the best player in the country. They've got the
Arguably
presumptive
the
number
second
one.
best player, maybe.
Yes, she's going to be the number one pick in the draft this year. And then, they picked up Sarah Williams who they didn't have last year. They got Blanca, who they didn't have last year. And they're, it's their tournament to lose. It doesn't mean they can't lose it, but if UConn plays their best game, nobody's going to beat them.
Right. So obviously losing Paige is impossible to replace, but they addressed their only two weaknesses from last year, which was post size and overall depth, right?
Right.
So you can't make up for Paige, but KK has been incredible this year. Heckle at least replaces Chen, if not, maybe even adds a little more than Chen. And then you got Zybel taking a huge step up. Jana to me is just as good. She just hasn't had the minutes, but then to have Sarah and then to have a dynamic player like Blanca coming in off the bench. And last year, we were confused because we were wondering how Sarah Strong could possibly get better because she was like already a perfect basketball player last year as a freshman. But the answer is basically just she's shooting more efficiently and maybe
Yeah.
passing a little better also.
Probably getting more steals. I mean, she's
Hmm.
just upped her game in every area, really. I mean, she's a dominant rebounder. She's a great defender on the ball, in the post, and helping. I mean, she's just the best
And
player in the country.
more aggressive, I would say too. She doesn't have Paige to defer to, so uh,
Yeah. Yeah. So the committee got the one seeds right, and
Yeah,
they
they
got the
did.
order of the one seed. Well done. That was easy though. I mean,
Yeah.
that was simple.
And at the end of the day, I filled out my bracket today. I'm going chalk. I think all of the one seeds are going to the final four. So it's a little bit of splitting hairs because in all likelihood it's going to be the one seeds in Phoenix fighting for
It's
the championship. But it does feel like South Carolina tends to kind of get an easy walk to the Final Four. Not that they're not a Final Four team, but it feels like they are. Basically, UConn and South Carolina are pretty much locks for the Final Four every year, and it's like what other two teams are going to be there? Because Don has really built South Carolina into like a perennial Final Four team. But
yeah.
they do get easy walks, and then UConn, it feels like it's as tough of a road as you can give them. But I do think UCLA probably has more of a gripe than even UConn, but somehow the number one and number two overall teams have the hardest road to the Final Four.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, I predicted it in my brain. I knew it was going to happen, that they were going to give Vanderbilt to UConn. And it just shows you they're going for narrative over fairness in the seeding. I mean, Vanderbilt was close to being a one seed. They only dropped a little bit because they got upset by Ole Miss in the tournament. And, they were ranked sixth. They were seventh in the net rankings. There's no way UConn should be getting the number eight overall team, not the sixth or seventh best team in the country. And they just did that for narrative. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then uh, South Carolina got Iowa, who's the weakest two seed by far.
By far, yeah. For Vanderbilt, they beat LSU, they beat Michigan, they beat Kentucky multiple times, they beat Oklahoma. They were one of the few teams that has handed Texas a loss this year. Um, and then yeah, they don't have bad losses for Vanderbilt, and they have the number one scorer in the country, who a lot of people say is like the second place, like runner up probably for most outstanding player this year, player of the year, in Blake's. She's scoring 27 points per game this year. So they gave UConn the toughest two seed with the best player of all the two seeds.
Yeah. And a coach who knows the UConn program inside out.
Yeah.
And another advantage that,
And Vanderbilt was ranked five by the coaches, by the AP poll, and in net ranking at the end of the season. Like everything agreed that they were the fifth team. Or wait, no,
no,
sixth.
six. I think
Six.
LSU was
LSU was
six.
five.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt was six across the board.
Yeah.
Actually, no, in net they were
Seven.
seven, and Michigan was six, but um, they
Uh,
were clearly not the eighth.
Not the eighth. No. I mean, and Iowa was 10th in the net ratings. So,
Hmm.
I mean, South Carolina getting Iowa makes no sense at all. I mean, if Iowa's going to be a two seed, they should be in UConn's bracket. Um, and then UCLA got LSU, who,
Yeah, that's crazy.
people are saying UCLA has an argument for the number one overall seed, and they get what ostensibly should be the best two seed.
Yeah.
So somehow
And
the committee decided to protect Texas and South Carolina.
right. And it's not like it's another conference matchup, but the SEC is good this year and they're putting a lot of teams in the tournament and there's just going to be SEC matchups. There's no avoiding it. And you're
But
not supposed to at that level.
yeah, the rules, the official rules of the seeding, they're not supposed to even think about that at the Elite Eight and beyond. It's
Yeah.
not even supposed to be a consideration. Earlier,
Right.
they do consider it. Like you don't want to match up if a team's played each other two or three times, they consider that in the earlier rounds. But
Hmm.
I mean, we looked it up yesterday on the
Yeah.
NCAA website. By Elite Eight, it's not supposed to matter, but clearly that's all they took into consideration was splitting up the SEC. Or are they saying the SEC isn't as good as, like, the Big Ten's really better than the SEC?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't
I
know.
mean, what is
Doesn't make
that?
sense to
Michigan
me.
and Iowa are better than LSU and Vanderbilt? Is that what they're saying?
I don't know.
Because then
Yeah,
you have
it's confusing.
you,
Yeah.
I mean, then you have UCLA is ahead of Texas. Then you have South Carolina, but then you got two Big Ten teams. So you're saying that Big Ten's better than the SEC? That's what the committee's saying? I don't
Right.
think that's what they're saying. What they're saying is we're protecting the SEC is what it seems
Yes.
like.
Yeah, I do. I don't know the details, but I know that last year was the first time the women got any money from the tournament.
Mm.
And I don't know how that is distributed, but I assume the farther you go, the more money you get. And so it's advantageous for the SEC and ESPN for SEC teams to go far. It's a little conspiratorial, but
Yeah, we're pretty conspiratorial right now, but it
it's a
doesn't
little
make
it's
any sense.
illogical. For both LSU and for UCLA, like I think they both deserve to be upset because LSU is one of the very few teams that you felt like potentially they could be in the Final Four. And it's going to be a tough road for them going through UCLA. And the same for Vanderbilt. Really, this year it felt like there were six teams that set four.
Mm.
There's UConn, then there's the other three in the top four that were clearly a tier above everyone. But then it was like LSU and Vanderbilt, like maybe on a good day, another team has not their best day, they maybe make the
No,
Final Four.
I
But then you put
mean,
them up against the best two teams in the country, and you really reduce their chances of doing that.
yeah, I mean, as you said, Vanderbilt beat Texas, right? I
Hmm.
mean, so you could almost put LSU and Vanderbilt in that tier with UCLA, South Carolina, Texas. I mean, it's those five teams are really close, I think. Like I think UCLA, or you could maybe say UCLA is a separate tier. But I mean, honestly, it's just it doesn't make sense. They blew it on the two seeds. It
Yeah.
was not a good
And
job of seeding there. But
right.
I
But
think
yeah, for
we've
Michigan I think got a lot of hype because they beat Notre Dame early when Notre Dame was ranked, and then they lost to UConn, but it was a close loss.
right.
Um, but UConn was up 20 at the half. You and Mom went to bed because he thought it was over. And then UConn just had almost got shut out. They only scored 4 points in the third quarter, and Swords knocked down a bunch of clutch threes and made it a game. But like they didn't have any bad losses, but they also played Iowa, lost to Iowa twice, and only scored 42 or 44 points against Iowa when they played them two times.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah. I would rather have Michigan than Vanderbilt or LSU if I was UCLA.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's just yeah, I don't understand what they did with the two seeds at all. And nobody pushed them. Like Holly Rowe had the chairman of the committee
Hmm.
on. He
She asked
did
a
not
big
ask her
question
hard.
about
She asked
balance
him,
or something.
yeah, but she asked specifically about Maryland and Minnesota, which was a
Mhm.
ridiculous. Who cares? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's pretty
we're Big
irrelevant.
Ten fans, and we don't care about that.
Yeah,
It's the real thing was the two seeds. That was the question. I
yeah.
mean, and she just lobbed a softball, like you said, didn't go specifically. How did Vanderbilt end up as the eighth overall team?
Hmm.
Why why is Michigan ranked higher than
But
LSU in
yeah,
your considerations?
right, right, yeah. But it
I
is like
mean,
for Vanderbilt and
such
UConn,
a softball.
it's the coaches. For Gino and his potential heir to the throne. People say that Shea Ralph could potentially succeed Gino, but she was a player for him and an assistant coach. Was a part of quite a few of their championship teams. Um, and then you have the two sophomores who are arguably two of the best players in the country this year. Um, so,
Yeah,
like,
it's all
they obviously did it for that, but
yeah,
it feels like a disservice to the season Vanderbilt had to get that seed.
I agree. So we're aligned on that and enough ranting. That's they really blew it there. But let's just maybe take a higher level look at the brackets. What are your thoughts besides they nailed the one seeds, they blew it on
Hmm.
the two seeds.
Hmm.
What about the regions? Otherwise, any big thoughts or anything specific you wanted to call out?
I mean, all the top scorers in the country are in UConn's bracket. Like I mentioned, they tend to get, it feels like every first round game, even for UConn, it's like, oh, this team shoots 53s a game. They only normally shoot 27%, but who knows what's going to happen today? And you're like, ah, what?
Right.
And those games aren't usually going to be competitive, but So they have the top scorers in the country. I think actually the top four, but the top three that you really think about with Blake's for Vanderbilt. Hidalgo is number three for Notre Dame, and then Audie Crooks for Iowa State is number two. So
And they'll
that's the
probably
kind of
face two
thing.
of those three. They probably won't face Hidalgo,
Oh, right. They couldn't
right?
face all of them. Yeah.
But they'll face Crooks in the first round
hmm
or second round,
Well, first
second
weekend.
round. Yeah, and then they'll likely face Blake's in the Elite Eight.
hmm
So yeah, I mean it's not they didn't do UConn any favors. They seeded him number one, but then they did not give him a bracket that was worthy of the number one seeding.
Right.
South Carolina got that bracket.
Yeah, it did feel that way. For South Carolina, they have Iowa, they have TCU, which TCU is a good team, but I don't see that they can really compete with South Carolina's physicality.
We watched TCU. We saw them in person this year.
Yeah.
They didn't. They're Olivia Miles is good, but I mean, then they've got a big who's good, but they're not gonna. I mean, South Carolina is going to beat them by 20. So
Yeah, I don't see them
if
being
they
able
play
to
TCU,
score.
well, if they even play TCU, I don't know who
Sure.
to be,
Yeah,
either
Iowa or
Iowa
TCU.
or
I could see
TCU.
either team advancing. And
But
then
I
they have
see,
Oklahoma, and Oklahoma is one of the teams that did beat South. So they put
yeah, I mean,
Oklahoma
they
as
actually
the
got a
four.
tough four seed. I
Yeah,
mean,
the
to be
four is
fair,
maybe even
better
tougher
than
potentially. They have Chavez
potentially, yeah.
in the four, but it's I think it's tough to beat South Carolina twice in a year.
Hmm.
So it's pretty unlikely that they will, but it is a team that potentially could beat them. But like their eight seed is Clemson versus like Iowa State for UConn.
Yeah,
So
yeah, the eight
um,
seed
yeah.
is no good. So UCLA and their bracket, I mean, they were just
They
done
have
no
a tough,
favors
they have, so
either.
they have LSU, they have Duke, so they're gonna most likely be facing Duke or LSU. But then
Well,
they
they will,
also,
yeah.
so that's tough. Like either one of those is gonna be a slugfest. Like it's not gonna be easy. But they
Mm,
also are facing either Minnesota or Ole Miss. And Minnesota, we did not watch enough of the Big Ten to really have any idea of how their statistics back them up for this, but they're apparently the nine net.
that's
Um,
just crazy to
it
me.
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And they don't even have, um, yeah, I don't know. They have eight losses. I don't think they had any great ones, but maybe they just didn't have bad losses and were efficient or something. I'm not sure.
I don't know how
Um,
they're not the ninth best team in the country.
but
That
then
there
they
was
have
something
Ole
very
Miss.
off.
Ole Miss is their five seed, which I would expect Ole Miss to beat Minnesota. Ole Miss is kind of SEC, like very physical. It's probably going to be in the 50s, you know. So like that's a tough game just physically to play and then to have to uh play Duke or LSU after that. And then if you get past Duke or LSU, you have to face Texas most likely. So that's a really tough road.
Get beat up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then what about the bracket for Texas and their region? They're in the Fort Worth region as well. So we'll get the pleasure of seeing Texas
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
Pleasure. Yeah, air quotes around pleasure.
They have Michigan. Michigan is just a little hard for me to really have a good feel of how good they are because I feel like they've been competitive, but then sometimes they haven't been competitive at all. They have some shooters, but they're like underclassmen, so it's really hard to know how Michigan will do. If Michigan could get out to a lead, like if they come out and knock down four threes in the first couple minutes and Texas is playing from behind the whole time,
Yeah.
maybe they have a chance. But Texas is just so aggressive and physical. Um, I think if it's a game in like the 60s, it's going to be really hard for Michigan to win.
Hmm. Yeah, that's
But
probably true.
they have what Louisville is their three, West Virginia is their four. So it's
They
not
have
the hardest.
Oregon.
Yeah.
Oregon's their eight, and Oregon somehow. Here's another mystery. The Big Ten did
Yeah.
well in the net ranking, evidently, but Oregon was 24 in net ranking, and
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
saw them play. IU women beat Oregon.
Yeah.
I mean, and IU had a
They had
terrible year.
12 losses. That's too much.
Yeah, so I don't. I mean, that's an easy eight seed.
Yeah,
They'll
very.
just beat Oregon. Yeah.
Kentucky, so
So
Kentucky, I could see Kentucky beating West Virginia and then facing Kentucky. But I think they'll beat either.
yeah,
I
they'll
think they'll just
handle
outmatch
either.
either team pretty
Yeah.
easily. So I think you probably see Michigan beating Louisville, but who knows? Jeff Walls sometimes has like some tricks or junk defense up his sleeve, so um, Louisville might emerge, but I have a hard time seeing either of those teams getting past Texas unless, again, it's like they get hot from three and just can outscore
Yeah,
Texas.
it's a thing you said about the danger in UConn's bracket. That's the only hope Michigan would have. I mean, Michigan could do that. They got some shooters. So that'd be the only hope is they get hot from three and the rest don't let Texas just pound them and
Hmm.
bump the cutters all night long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if I were UConn or UCLA, I wouldn't be happy with the two seeds I got. But you know, um, it's going to be fun. We get to see some games in person. TCU's hosting, so there are games
Yeah.
in Fort Worth the first two weekends.
Hmm.
I know you're planning on going this weekend. I'm not sure about me for Friday, but maybe another day of the weekend.
Yeah.
I don't think unfortunately, they're day games. If it was an evening game on Friday, I'd go, but
Right.
I don't think I can
But
get
then
off
there's
work.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so
Yeah, so I maybe will get some of the weekend games in. Um, so yeah, we'll get a lot of basketball coming up. You said you already did your bracket.
yeah.
So what's your pick?
I went pretty chalk. I don't remember if I had all the two seeds in, but I have all the ones in the final four, and I have the top two advancing, so I have UConn beating UCLA in the final. And I hope that's what happens. I think that would be a fun game.
Yeah,
Rematch
I
of
mean,
last year's final four.
I haven't done my bracket yet, but likely going to do the same thing. Going to go chalk. Probably going to have all four number ones. I just don't see, anything else happening. LSU, I guess, could beat UCLA, but I don't know. They had such a weak pre-conference schedule. Maybe that's why the committee's punishing them for playing so many cupcakes
Hmm.
pre-SEC. But yeah, I'll go chalk to you. I'm going to pick UConn to win
Yeah.
the national championship. I think Sarah Strong's the best player in the country. I don't think it's close. And, I think Azzi's probably the second best player in the country. And in basketball, you only play five players at a time. And if there are no injuries and no foul trouble, I think it's UConn's tournament to win, and hopefully they'll be able to do it. For the W Hoops podcast today, everyone, please be sure to subscribe and leave a comment or a review, and we'll see you next week.